This is the Mop Up. I'm David Feldman in New York City, where spring is less than a month away, but we're getting our first blizzard in 9 years. Winter Storm Hernando, a deadly nor'easter, is turning into a bomb cyclone, dumping unprecedented levels of snow, leaving tens of thousands without power throughout the mid-Atlantic and New England. Honestly, that part of the country has been without power since Trump returned. Here in New York City and the surrounding areas, we're expecting 18 to 24 inches of snow. For those of you overseas on the metric system, that translates into we're completely effed. It's really bad out there. More on Winter Storm Hernando later on. If you're on the East Coast or the Mid-Atlantic, I hope you're okay. Here we see FBI Director Kash Patel searching for Savannah Guthrie's mother in the bottom of one of the beers he's chugging inside the locker room of Team USA's hockey team after they won the gold by defeating Team Canada. That is Kash Patel on the job. He's at the Winter Olympics in Italy, and inside the locker room, pounding beer after beer as he takes calls, I'm sure, from the nearly 1,000 Epstein victims searching for answers and justice. You know, the way Patel is slamming those drinks, I can't help but wonder if he's auditioning for the part of Secretary of Defense. I think he'd give Pete Hegseth a run for the money. Well, things aren't going particularly well for our commander-in-chief, which is surprising because he surrounds himself with only the best people, you know, like Commerce Secretary and Wall Street billionaire Howard Lutnick, who ran Cantor Fitzgerald right up until he moved to D.C. in order to serve in the Trump administration. Lutnick is the brains behind Trump's tariffs. During the 2024 election, Lutnick was out on the campaign trail saying, with tariffs, we could eliminate the income tax. Because why? Because he said foreign countries pay the tariffs. They, he said, would be funding our government. Is that true? Well, Lutnick also says the COVID vaccine causes autism, so he must know what he's talking about. Since coming to D.C., Howard Lutnick no longer runs Cantor Fitzgerald. He turned the company over to his two brilliant sons, seen here a few years back with model, actress, and immunologist Dr. Jenny McCarthy, who is the Lutnick family's top medical advisor on vaccine protocols. I mention all this because, besides his two brilliant sons, Howard Lutnick's other baby was Trump's tariffs. Whenever Trump talked tariffs, right next to him was Howard Lutnick carrying that big board. Remember the big board? It's right up there. It looks like Trump is picking out paint chips for one of his garish casinos. Let's go with piss yellow for the ladies' room, shall we? On Friday, the Supreme Court ruled, no, the president doesn't get to decide on tariffs all by himself. In a 6-3 ruling written by our Chief Justice, John Roberts, the Supreme Court said that Donald Trump overstepped his constitutional reach when he invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to relieve Congress of its Article I powers, giving it the right to invoke duties or tariffs on foreign imports. And by the way, the trade deficit, which Trump's tariffs was supposed to address, it's only gotten worse since the tariffs started. Like everything, whatever he does, he fails. Tariffs, in case you haven't been following this, was Trump's signature domestic and foreign policy initiative. He uses tariffs as a cudgel, a weapon to get countries to fall in line. Turns out, according to the Supreme Court, one man doesn't get to do that in this country, especially when that man is a cretin who has absolutely no idea how money works, which is why he was forced to declare bankruptcy at least 6 times. But Trump took the disappointing news Friday with equanimity and composure, calling the Supreme Court fools and lapdogs. I think he mistook them for his cabinet. Then the president accused the Supreme Court of being, quote, disloyal to the Constitution. You know, if I were you, I'd keep my mouth shut about loyalty to the Constitution, hotshot. The only reason you're sitting in the Oval Office and not a prison cell in Fulton County, Georgia, is because of the Supreme Court's complete and total lack of fidelity to the Constitution. So don't talk about loyalty to the Constitution, you POS. So what does this have to do with Howard Lutnick? The New Republic reporting that Cantor Fitzgerald, the brokerage house he turned over to his sons, well, Cantor Fitzgerald stands to make a fortune from the tariffs getting overturned by the Supreme Court. Here's how it works. The government supposedly now has to return all the tariffs it collected from the businesses who imported stuff that they had to pay tariffs on. Well, they collected money. Now the government has to return that money. We're talking billions of dollars that have to be refunded to all the corporations that paid the tariffs. And of course, they pass those costs along to you and me, the American consumer. We're not getting the refunds. So what Lutnick's kids over at Cantor Fitzgerald did is they turned the right to a refund from the government into a security that you can trade and swap and bet on. So if you're owed a refund from the government, but you don't want to sit around waiting for the government to give it to you, or you think maybe the Supreme Court isn't going to overturn the tariffs and you're not getting any refund at all, you sell your refund rights to Howard Lutnick's kids at a discount. So in July of last year, right after the tariffs began to kick in, Lutnick's kids started buying up the right to a refund from the federal government should the court overturn the tariffs. And now, because the courts did in fact rule the tariffs are unconstitutional, Lutnick's kids stand to make a fortune. They will get the refund from the government because they bought the rights to the refund at a discount. By the way, if you don't understand any of this, you're not supposed to. This is exactly how the economy got crashed in 2008. Trading and then betting on debt that nobody understands. The point is, Howard Lutnick took his kids to Pedo Island. Jeffrey Epstein taught them something, right? If the Democrats win back one of the chambers of Congress, one of the first things they're going to look into is the Lutnick family's trades made throughout that period of turbulence in the stock market created by Trump's tariffs. When the Supreme Court overturned the tariffs, the stock market shot up immediately, kind of like the way it crashed back in 2025 when Trump announced the tariffs. You might remember Trump would declare the tariffs and the market would sink. Then he would rescind some of the tariffs and the stock market would soar. He was controlling the stock market like King Canute controlled the tides. And Trump couldn't believe that all he had to do was say something and the markets would move. You know, for a guy whose penis hasn't worked in decades, that's as good as it's going to get for him. And you know who Trump talks to every night? This is true. Every night before Trump tries to go to bed, he talks to Howard Lutnick. Lutnick is the Trump whisperer. He tells Trump how smart he is, how great he is. You know, he's a liar. And Trump finds that soothing. And you know who else Howard Lutnick talks to every day? His two idiot sons who he put in charge of Cantor Fitzgerald. This is James Comer. He's the head of the House Oversight Committee. He's also running the Epstein investigation that Congress is conducting. Comer just declared that Trump has been completely exonerated by the Epstein files. And this week, Comer brings the Clintons before his Epstein committee because Bill Clinton hasn't been president in 25 years. Comer, doing Trump's bidding, spent the last 2 years of Joe Biden's presidency as chairman of the House Oversight Committee trying to get Hunter Biden back on drugs. They ran him through the ringer, and now Hunter Biden is broke and broken. Congratulations, Jim Comer. Well, this is California House Democrat Robert Garcia, and he is the ranking member on the House Oversight Committee, which means when the Democrats win back the House this year, he begins to investigate the Trump administration the way Jim Comer investigated the Biden administration. The only difference is with the Trump administration, there's too much to investigate. I can assure you this, when Howard Lutnick is brought before the committee after the Democrats, if the Democrats win the House back, the first thing the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Democrat Robert Garcia, the first thing he's going to ask Lutnick about won't be why he brought his kids to Pedo Island. The first questions he's going to want answered is, what did you talk to your kids about after you talked to Donald Trump? After you tucked Donald Trump in at night, what did you talk to your kids about? And show us the trades your family made in 2025. Show us the trades Cantor Fitzgerald made in 2025 as Trump moved the markets up and down by imposing and then revoking your tariffs. JP Morgan Chase has confirmed that it closed all of Donald Trump's accounts after January 6, 2021. So Trump is suing JP Morgan Chase for $5 billion, claiming they shut his accounts down as political persecution and then in so doing damaged his reputation. No, Donald, you damaged your reputation by inciting an insurrection. JP Morgan shut your accounts down because it's against the law for banks to do business with terrorists, gangsters, and insurrectionists. That's the truth. That's why they shut your accounts down. Banks are forbidden from processing money that has been exchanged by criminals or enemies of the United States, like Donald Trump, who launched an insurrection against our country on January 6, 2021. JP Morgan Chase, by the way, had to pay Epstein's victims close to $300 million for ignoring all the red flags involving Epstein's bank accounts. They were legally obligated to act upon all those red flags. It's why they shut down Trump's bank accounts after January 6th. And it's why they shut down Jeffrey Epstein's bank accounts. They did it too late, which is why they got fined. They should have gone to prison. We now know that JP Morgan Chase was advised by their internal watchdog to sever all ties with Epstein in 2011. They waited until 2013, but continued to process Epstein's payments to women and girls after that. And people from JP Morgan Chase were going to the townhouse after 2013 because he was still throwing business at JP Morgan Chase. Epstein ended up moving the bulk of his cash over to Deutsche Bank, which has a storied history of doing business with transnational pedophiles, charlatans, cheats, con artists, gangsters, money launderers, and drug dealers like, Jeffrey Epstein or Donald Trump. You might recall Trump was found civilly liable in 2024 for defrauding banks and lenders by as much as $500 million when he would refinance his buildings. Here is Donald Trump Jr. reminding us of how stupid he is, and the only reason he had to go into the family business is nobody else would hire him. Donald Trump Jr., during an interview on CNBC last week, was promoting his new cryptocurrency venture. This is, he and Eric own 40% of it, and Steve Witkoff, the real estate lawyer who also serves as Trump's very successful peace envoy, he's got 2 idiot kids too. So the 4 of these idiot kids have started this cryptocurrency venture. Yes, trust your life savings with these brilliant young boys. Here is the brilliant Donald Trump Jr., how it all worked. Here he is explaining how it all worked for the Trump family when it came to defrauding lenders. This is actually Donald Trump Jr. on CNBC, just giving it away, just exposing the family for what they are.
So we did this out of necessity, and it was important. I think it's important for the world. And in that, I think we're creating a lot of efficiencies that were lacking in the system. I mean, as someone who either one of us could have called any banker in New York over the last 20 years and gotten a loan for a building, and we just realized we were sort of the top of the Ponzi scheme that was banking. If you didn't have those connections, if you didn't have these things, you didn't get that benefit. Crypto totally democratizes the ability for people to transact, to do finance, to get the loans that they need for businesses that make sense. That didn't exist for everyone, and we're really glad to be able to bring that to the forefront in the market.
Did you hear what that stupid kid said? Here.
We just realized we were sort of the top of the Ponzi scheme that was banking.
And they're appealing the ruling against the family that said the Trump organization defrauded lenders out of about $500 million. Well, Trump is suing J.P. Morgan Chase for $6 billion, claiming they ruined his reputation after January 6, like he needed any help from J.P. Morgan to do that. After January 6, Trump received a letter from J.P. Morgan Chase telling him they want him to close out all his accounts and find another institution to do business with. J.P. Morgan Chase didn't appreciate Trump's goons wandering the halls of Congress, literally taking dumps in Statuary Hall, defiling the Senate, defiling the Speaker's office, as well as the House of Representatives. J.P. Morgan Chase doesn't appreciate that because that's what J.P. Morgan Chase pays their lobbyists to do. Meanwhile, Trump said after the Supreme Court ruled his tariffs are unconstitutional, he immediately declared new tariffs. Yes, with a stunned and broken Howard Lutnick looking on, Trump announced 10% global tariffs. And he said, I've not overstepped my constitutional authority because Mike Johnson, our speaker, has no problem with me making all the decisions about the tariffs. And then he brought Mike Johnson to the podium. And Speaker Mike Johnson said this about Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is the greatest president in the world, and he never once pooped his pants in a meeting, no matter what the fake media says.
Yeah, that is some really good AI. That is, I'm telling you, it's going to replace us. You can't even see Mike Johnson's lips moving. Yeah, AI is starting to bore me. Later that day, the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, and Republican Speaker Mike Johnson said they will not agree to Democrats' demands that ICE agents take off their masks in order to pass a new Department of Homeland Security funding package. You know that the Department of Homeland Security has been shut down, and it's over the masks. Both Republicans, Speaker Mike Johnson and John Thune, said masks keep ICE agents safe as more and more people throw Subway sandwiches at ICE agents. They need to wear masks. And then remarking on how death threats against members of Congress have increased exponentially, Senator Thune and Mike Johnson announced that they too have begun wearing masks. I have to admit they're pretty stylish, and I hope they keep them safe. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who lead the Democrats in Congress, announced for security reasons they too have been forced to wear masks. Quite frankly, I find it hypocritical on their part. I mean, if they don't want ICE agents wearing masks, then Democrats should not be wearing masks. I think it sets a bad precedent. By the way, I don't know why, honestly, Democrats have such a problem with masks. Tom Homan, the border czar, unveiled the new spring line of masks for ICE agents. I think the ball gag is an excellent touch. It's stylish, slimming. It says, peekaboo, I see you, but you don't see me. And because he's important, Tom Homan has a special mask that says Tom Homan on it. Tom Homan, he said to the press putting on the mask, me wear Tom Homan mask. Me feel safe because nobody know me, Tom Homan, is behind Tom Homan mask. Me, Tom Homan, me not pay for sex. Me pay for sex. Here is Tom Homan sporting the new ICE body mask. They're putting masks on ICE agents' entire body now. Here are some of the ICE agents wearing their new full body masks as they patrol the streets of Minneapolis. There's still a few jackboots there on the ground. And how can you not love the men and women of ICE keeping us safe? I have nothing but the highest regard for these lowlifes. They are America's treasure, the best we have to offer. Well, here's an interesting nugget from our enemies over at the right-wing news organization Breitbart. According to Breitbart, 75% of Trump voters say they support solar energy. These are Trump supporters. 75% say they want to see the government invest more in solar. Well, sure, Trump supporters say they support solar now. Just wait until someone reminds them that it's the sun that gives people darker skin. Then the Trump supporters will change their mind on solar. Donald Trump announced he is sending an American hospital ship to Greenland so it can attend to that country's sick. Mr. President, I'm sure it's the other way around. Greenland should be sending us the hospital ship. But you know what? That is an act of war. Sending an American hospital to Greenland, it is way worse than dropping bombs on them. So maybe Trump's a military genius. Maybe this is how he plans to invade Greenland. You know, last year he bombed Iran. They still didn't give up their nuclear ambitions. He bombed ISIS. They still haven't given up in Syria. So instead of bombing Greenland, he's sending a hospital ship loaded with America's healthcare system. I think that's genius. The enemy will buckle from the weight of AETNA's paperwork alone. You know, after sitting on hold for 6 hours while watching their grandparents die, waiting for United Healthcare to approve an aspirin, the people of Greenland will offer up an unconditional surrender to Donald Trump. All they'll want is their old healthcare system back. This is how we can win wars. Just drop United Healthcare on the enemy. Steve Witkoff, Trump's peace envoy, this is the guy with the 2 idiot kids who nobody else will hire, so they get into cryptocurrency with Trump's 2 idiot sons who nobody else will hire. Anyway, Steve Witkoff is Trump's peace envoy, and he's doing a terrific job in Ukraine and Gaza, and it's just peace throughout the world. He's a miracle. Anyway, he was on Fox News over the weekend. He said Trump is frustrated that Iran has not yet capitulated to his demands that they give up their nuclear ambitions. Well, you know, Trump began building up U.S. military assets in the region last week. He sent the world's largest warship, the USS Gerald R. Ford, and he's warning a strike on Iran can happen any day now. Trump had his peace envoy, the brilliant Steve Witkoff. He told Steve Witkoff to tell the leaders of Iran, quote, "I can destroy nations," unquote. And Iran, if you're watching, trust me, destroying nations is what Trump does best. Here in America, we've learned that firsthand. And yet, Iran seems to be slow-walking the negotiations, even going so far as to warn Donald Trump that bad things would happen if he attacked their country again. Well, Mr. President, I have an idea on how to bring Iran to their knees. Instead of sending the USS Gerald Ford into the region, send that hospital ship. Threaten to put Iranians on United Healthcare's Medicare Advantage. Yes, I know, putting the entire nation of Iran on United Healthcare's Medicare Advantage is a crime against humanity. But America has to stop fighting these wars with one arm tied behind our backs. Trump, in an interview over the weekend, said the Iranian regime this year killed 32,000 protesters. Trump mentioned that as evidence that he can work with the Ayatollah and that our similarities far outweigh our differences. Trump says he's considering limited strikes against Iran, and they could happen in the next 10 days, depending on how well negotiations go. Not negotiations with Iran, negotiations with Republicans who still want all the Epstein files released. If this Epstein story doesn't go away in 10 days, Trump is going to need something. So, Iran, you're up next. Remember when we used to invade countries for their petroleum? Now it's just to distract the American people. I say no war for massage oil. I wish I didn't say that. But I say no war for massage oil because that's what, if we go to war with Iran, it's over Jeffrey Epstein's massage oil. The Epstein story just will not go away, no matter how hard Donald Trump tries. He's going to try to, this week, pin it on the Clintons. Bill, he hasn't been president for 25 years. But this is Bill, a picture of him in the Epstein files, swimming somewhere with Ghislaine Maxwell. And Bill and Hillary are scheduled to testify this week before the Epstein committee. But it could be canceled because of the weather or because Hillary finally kills Bill. And I really think the photo of Bill in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell, she is the epitome of reserve for not strangling Bill. You know, in 1992, when Bill was running for president and the Jennifer Flowers story broke, Hillary gave that infamous interview with 60 Minutes saying, quote, I'm not sitting here, some little woman standing by my man like Tammy Wynette. Funny thing about Tammy Wynette, she wrote Stand By Your Man, and that's the song Hillary was referring to. It's about forgiving your man even when he's got a cheating heart. She'll say, she said in the song, you'll have your bad times and he'll have his good times doing things that you don't understand. But if you love him, you'll forgive him, even though he's so hard to understand. He's just a man, right? Just a man. You got to stand by your man. He's going to cheat on you. Stand by your man. And Hillary told Steve Croft at 60 Minutes in 1992, I'm not sitting here, some little woman standing by my man like Tammy Wynette. She was saying, I wouldn't put up with Bill if he was cheating on me. Yeah. Funny thing about Tammy Wynette standing by her man. 5 marriages, 4 divorces. The one she didn't divorce died. Tammy Wynette didn't stand by her man. But you know who did stand by her man? Hillary. She just sat there, some little woman, standing by my man, not like Tammy Wynette. More Epstein problems for Trump and, of course, Pam Bondi. You might recall on the last show, we played clips and talked about how Pam Bondi perjured herself before the House Oversight Committee. That would be the House Judiciary Committee. She perjured herself in front of the House Judiciary Committee when she said there was no evidence in the Epstein files implicating Donald Trump. How could she say that? You got to remember, evidence doesn't mean proof. Evidence means there are documents, there are details from FBI interviews suggesting Donald Trump might have committed a crime. That's what evidence is, not proof, evidence. For the Attorney General of the United States to testify under oath that there is no evidence that Trump committed a crime, that is perjury. Again, evidence isn't proof. It's evidence, which must be investigated. And this is what, by the way, see, that's what Jesus, I spoke to Jesus, and he keeps telling me to tell Bondi, this is what I'm going to do to her face. I'm going to give her measles for what she's done. Jesus told me that. If you have a problem, take it up with Jesus. Jesus said he's going to punish Pam Bondi by giving her measles. Roger Sollenberger is a terrific investigative. Hey, don't blame me, okay? I'm the messenger. Got a problem, take it up with Jesus. Roger Sollenberger is a terrific investigative journalist. He poured through the Epstein files and reported last week that there are notes from the FBI saying one of Epstein's victims was interviewed 4 times as recently as 2019. Each time she claimed to have been sexually assaulted by Donald Trump when she was no older than 14, possibly 13. So that is evidence, not proof, but that is evidence. When the FBI interviews a woman 4 times, as recently as 2019, and she says, I was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump at the age of 14, that is not proof that she was sexually assaulted, but it is evidence that must be investigated. This is why Pam Bondi perjured herself 2 weeks ago before the House Judiciary Committee when she said to Ted Lieu, there's no evidence of any criminal wrongdoing in the Epstein files by Donald Trump. Okay, so that's what Roger Sollenberger found. And there are other stuff. There's other stuff, more evidence against Donald Trump in the Epstein files. But Roger Sollenberger found this. And then the New Republic reporting that Roger Sollenberger discovered that suddenly this FBI report has gone missing from the FBI Epstein file database. So the FBI 4 times interviewed this woman, said she was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump when she was 14. She gave the interview in last interview was 2019. And suddenly that evidence can no longer be found in the FBI database that comprises the Epstein files. That is a direct violation of the Epstein Transparency Act. Somebody, Pam Bondi, somebody in the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, pulled this evidence, this credible evidence that Donald Trump sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl. Prince William is the heir to the British throne, and he appeared with Princess Kate on Sunday at the BAFTAs. That's the British Academy of Film and Television Arts Awards. They walked the red carpet, and then Prince William was asked, have you seen one of the films that was nominated? And William volunteered. This is what he said, quote, I need to be in quite a calm state in order to watch that movie. and I am not in a calm state at the moment, unquote. That says a lot about Andrew, and things do not look promising for the former Prince Andrew. Police have been searching his former residence, the 30-room mansion bequeathed to him by Queen Elizabeth. It's the 30-room mansion. It's the Royal Lodge. He had been living in it up until earlier this month. Then he got kicked out of the Royal Lodge. This was before the arrest. Charles kicked him out when the latest Epstein dump proved Andrew's relationship with the entire royal family was irreparably damaged. Police are reportedly searching Windsor Lodge on Monday, and they're going to continue searching the 30 rooms. So far, they've been searching for 4 days. They are combing his former estate for evidence of sex trafficking, passing state secrets to Jeffrey Epstein, and who knows what else. So, in matters like these, the royal family needs to start offering up heads on a stick for their own survival. And Andrew makes the perfect sacrificial lamb. But will it be enough? There are some who say this is the worst crisis for the monarchy in 90 years since the abdication of King Edward, the Nazi sympathizer. They had a Nazi on the throne, and he ended up giving up the throne for the woman he loved. There are now calls to widen the investigation beyond the former Prince Andrew to find out who knew what and when about Andrew's Epstein connections. Who, in the service of protecting the Queen or King Charles, might have turned a blind eye to crimes being committed, possibly even in Buckingham Palace or Sandringham. So, if you pull on that string, you run the danger of the monarchy's entire fabric coming undone. Former Prime Minister Gordon Brown is calling on Scotland Yard to investigate whether Andrew used taxpayer money to pay for Jeffrey Epstein's visits to the royal estates, right? Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell came to Windsor Castle. They came to Sandringham. I think they even came into Buckingham Palace and Royal Lodge. There are investigations right now into Andrew's royal protection officers who might have turned a blind eye to crimes committed either by Epstein or Andrew when they provided security for the then Duke of York during his visits to Epstein's Island. So here's how I think Charles and the people around him are planning to insulate the royal family. They know that here in the United States, Jeffrey Epstein, for almost a decade now, has been seen here in the United States as a monster who trafficked and assaulted at least 1,000 women. And the people in charge here in the United States know that the worse you make Jeffrey Epstein, the more demonic you can portray him, the less likely the American people are going to want more answers to questions like who else was involved. This is the mind trick that you play. If you can, look, Epstein is a monster, there's no question, but if you can turn him into the devil, which he was, but if you can convince the American people that he is the devil, and then you can convince enough people that everyone around Jeffrey Epstein, even his co-conspirators, were his victims. That seems to be the gambit here in the United States. It's no longer succeeding. But the worse you make Jeffrey Epstein look, the more innocent everyone around him appears to be. So you can say if Jeffrey Epstein is Adolf Hitler, everyone else can say, I had no idea what he was doing. He was brilliant. He's the devil. He manipulated me as only the devil can. Well, he is the devil, but, the devil has plenty of co-conspirators. We all know he had cameras throughout the townhouse in Manhattan. We know he videotaped some of his associates. Where are those tapes? Well, Pam Bondi said she combed the FBI files, the Epstein files. She said there's no evidence of rich and powerful men being secretly recorded having sex with minors. Jeffrey Epstein never recorded any rich and powerful men having sex with minors. The cameras, the hidden cameras, it was just, in case Alan Funt came over and they wanted to play. Nobody knows who Alan Funt is, but we know Epstein had cameras set up all over his townhouse. We know he assaulted and raped at least 1,000 girls. But videotaping rich and powerful men raping those girls, I mean, what kind of child predator do you think that man is? Sure, he'll rape kids, but videotape a rich and powerful banker doing that? That's where he drew the line. He is a sexual predator, but even sexual predators have a line they won't cross. Come on, where are the effing tapes, Pam Bondi? So the point I'm making is, the worse you can make Jeffrey Epstein look, the more innocent everyone around him appears. They're all his victims. And that, I believe, is the gambit the royal family is going to play with Andrew. In order for the royal family to contain this, they're going to have to make Andrew look as bad as Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think Andrew is as bad as Jeffrey Epstein. But in order to protect the royal family, in order to insulate themselves, they have to make Andrew look like the devil, so that will be enough. So they give up Andrew, that's the head on the stick, and people are satisfied. The same way Bondi and Trump and Bill Barr thought they could succeed in convincing the American people Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were enough. Both of them were evil, and they're gone, and there's nobody else to prosecute other than Ghislaine Maxwell, and she's the devil, and Epstein is the devil, and everyone around them who came to the townhouse or Palm Beach, they were the victims. They had no idea. They had no idea. Well, that's what I think they're going to do. I don't think it's looking good for Andrew. And does he deserve it? Sure. But I think they are going to turn him into Jack the Ripper to save the royal family. They're going to make him so bad that if he goes down, the British people are going to go, wow, he really was. Poor Prince Charles, poor King Charles, poor everybody. And they won't, that's how you cover up and protect the rich and powerful. Find one fall person, Ghislaine Maxwell, for example. Well, believe it or not, despite being stripped of all his titles, Andrew remains eighth in line to the crown. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer proposed after Andrew's arrest that legislation be introduced removing him from the royal line of succession. A YouGov poll taken immediately after Andrew's arrest shows 82% of the British people would support stripping Andrew of his right to succeed the king if he's eighth in line. So let me go over this. This is very important to me. I follow this stuff. Okay, so this is the line of, where are we? Here we go. That's the line of succession. So you got your King Charles sitting at the top, and then the Prince of Wales, that would be his son, William, and God forbid anything happens to King Charles, he would be succeeded by his oldest son, Prince William. And if William were to pass away, then his oldest son, George, Prince George of Wales, would succeed him, followed by William's daughter, Charlotte. Then I believe it's the Prince Louis of Wales. He's cute, right? He's like Rudy Giuliani's kid at the inauguration. People don't remember Rudy Giuliani's son when he was being sworn in as mayor of New York. And then who's next in line? You got the Duke of Sussex. That would be Harry, right? And then you got Prince Archie. That would be Meghan and Harry's son. And then you got Princess Lilibet. Have I gotten everybody? And then there you go. Eighth in line is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. That would be the former Duke of York, Prince Andrew. He's eighth in line. And I think Princess Beatrice, his daughter, is ninth in line. She's still a working royal. So that's the nine, the top nine. And then the line of succession gets really bizarre. Number 10 is Sir Jimmy Savile IV. Now, why would Jimmy Savile's son be in 10th in line? So 10th in the line of succession. Who's next? Who's 11? Gary Glitter III is 11th. Who's next? Jared, the Earl of Subway Sandwich. Why would Jared, the Earl of... I mean, look at who's in the line of succession after Prince Andrew. Sir Jimmy Savile, Gary Glitter III, Jared, the Earl of Subway Sandwich. Jared Fogle? The guy who lost all that weight eating Subway sandwiches? He's in the line of success. Who's next? Who's next? The Russell of Brand. I don't know who that is. The Russell of Brand and Lord Andrew of Tate. That's the royal line of success. They got to fix that. Now, look, that last part I made up. And sometimes people, that was made up. There's no Sir Jimmy Savile. There's no Gary Glitter III. The Russell of Brand doesn't exist. Lord Andrew of Tate and Jared, the Earl of Subway Sandwich, they don't exist. I made that up. That would be, what, early artificial intelligence if I make it up? Okay. Where am I? Okay. Well, the question all of you are asking, besides why am I watching this shit, is could Charles pardon his brother? First off, why would he? The answer is, however, the king has what is called the royal prerogative of mercy. He could try to pardon Andrew, but it would have to be approved by an act of parliament or possibly just the consent of the prime minister. I'm not quite sure. But the answer is the king really can't pardon his brother unilaterally. And the reason I mention that is the king can't do anything. It's a constitutional monarchy, meaning The royal family is there to fill the emotional needs of the British people, but they have zero influence or sway in the day-to-day operations of the government. They're forbidden from having anything to do with the government. When King Charles makes his speech before Parliament, when it's, the opening day of Parliament, that speech is written by the Prime Minister, and King Charles must read the speech word for word and announce what the policy of the government is going to be, whether King Charles agrees with it or not. I read there was a speech he gave, I think 2 or 3 years ago, where he talked about we've overcorrected when it comes to climate change. Maybe it was Liz Truss wrote it. Somebody stupid like Liz Truss wrote it. And King Charles, who is an environmentalist, was forced to read a speech saying, we're overreacting to climate change. I bring this up because Prince Andrew had no real state secrets to pass on to Jeffrey Epstein. Lord Peter Mandelson did. He hasn't been arrested yet. They're going after the low-hanging fruit. Andrew had no real state secrets to pass to Jeffrey Epstein. He was a trade ambassador, right? His mom gave him this job, meaning he traveled around the Commonwealth like, Fredo Corleone, learning about all the new peeler bars from Johnny Ola. He was a good time Charlie. He would fly in and, he was window dressing. It's great to have a prince around, but they weren't trusting him with state secrets. There was a state secret that he passed on to Jeffrey Epstein about gold mining opportunities in Helmand province in Afghanistan. This was like in 2010. Was that a state secret? Why would they be giving Prince Andrew state secrets? Donald Trump, on the other hand, we know he passed state secrets. We know he took home classified documents, and then he passed state secrets, war plans to anyone sitting around his Bedminster Golf Club. Remember the tapes? So he didn't get prosecuted. All right. More on that. Where am I? Okay. This is my mayor, Zohran Mamdani. I love him. I love my mayor. He's a democratic socialist, and that means every idiot who has no idea what socialism means calls Mayor Mamdani a hypocrite if he just gets out of bed in the morning. He's eating food, Mr. Socialist, eating food. Socialists don't eat food. What a hypocrite. Snowshoes? Oh, Mr. Fancy Socialist. He needs... This is like, it's like when people say Bernie has 2 homes. Yeah, he has a vacation home and he's a socialist. That's not hypocrisy. He wants everyone to live well. That's what socialism is. But people are stupid because it's America. So let's play a little game here. I'm going to play you a clip of our mayor getting ready for the blizzard. And as you know, that's where the rubber meets the road for a mayor. How does he rise to the occasion when there's a blizzard? So this clip went viral. See if you can, I'm going to play the entire clip and see if you can find the fake hypocrisy, what people called him out on. Now, they edited it down, but I'm going to play you the entire clip. You figure out how to take it out of context and turn it against this this man became a U.S. citizen, I believe, in 2019. it was either 2018 or 2019. He hasn't been a citizen for even a decade. And he's the mayor of New York. This makes me so happy to be alive. I love this guy. All right, so find out, watch this clip. If you were a right-wing douchebag, how would you edit this down to make him look bad? So we got the big snow coming up, and the Department of Sanitation does all the shoveling, but they want to make sure this is the worst blizzard we've had in 9 years. You edit this clip to make Mom Donnie look bad.
We're utilizing 33 DSNY vans and 2 DSNY buses to transport shovelers where they're needed faster. And for those who want to do more to help your neighbors and earn some extra cash, you too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork, which is accessible online at nyc.gov/snow, and you can get started right away.
Okay, so the right-wing attack machine took that clip, and it's gone viral. They edited out pieces, and DSN, Department of Sanitation, New York. Okay, so let's watch the edited version. I believe this is the edited version. This is what went viral.
You too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork, which is accessible online at nyc.gov/snow, and you can get started right away.
Okay, that's what went viral. Okay, so let me play that again. This is went viral. They edited it. Okay.
You too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork, which is accessible online at nyc.gov/snow, and you can get started right away.
This is what's going viral because and it's clipped because we have a socialist for mayor. We're now being told from that clip that got edited down that New Yorkers are forbidden from shoveling snow unless they have the right paperwork. Republicans are spreading this around. They're saying this is your typical Soviet-style bureaucratic red tape that won't even let you shovel snow unless you go down and show proof. You need a photo ID to be a snow shoveler. That's what Mom does. Let me play that again, because this is how you don't need AI to ruin a person's reputation. You just need to cut words out. So listen.
You too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork, which is accessible online at nyc.gov/snow, and you can get started right away.
They took out the sentence before, which is,
and for those who want to do more to help your neighbors and earn some extra cash, you too can become an emergency snow shoveler.
Right? You want to do more and earn some extra cash.
To help your neighbors and earn some extra cash.
Then you have to go to the local whatever and present some ID so we can pay you, so you can pay taxes, so we know who we're hiring in case somebody gets hurt, because that's how it works when you get hired to do some snow shoveling, which is, considered dangerous. We're going to pay you, you have to show us ID. This is what the right wing does. You don't need AI to destroy a man's reputation, and it's pure evil, and that clip went viral. Anyway, it made me really angry. I'm playing it at the end of the show because it's New York City, and most people, they should care about Mom Donnie. But this is Kathy Hochul. She's my governor. And with the blizzard about to hit, she declared a state of emergency. And then, and this is, got to admire this, our governor took to social media and provided us with this important instructional video. And pay attention.
Pro tips on shoveling from someone from Buffalo who knows. Just push it out of the way, okay? See what I'm doing here? No strain on the back from doing that. Now when it gets a lot heavier, you're gonna have to do a little bit more, but don't lift much. Just do it in smaller bits, okay? Little bits, little bits. You can do this. Don't do a big pile and fill this up because that can lead to a heart attack. You don't want that.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor Hochul. Up next, I have a video from our governor on how to wipe your own rusty bullet hole by yourself. She teaches us how to wipe our own rusty bullet hole all by ourselves. Thank you, Governor Hochul. Very important. Thank you for teaching us.
That can lead to a heart attack. You don't want that.
What, wiping my balloon knot all by myself or shoveling snow? Here's the scary thing. I watched this, and then somebody said to me, oh, it's important for her to do this. Shoveling snow, I was told today, causes heart attacks. I always thought it was the unremitting diet of Big Macs, topped off with an Oreo and Reese's peanut butter shake at Sonic Drive-In. Now, it turns out the cardiovascular workout from shoveling snow, that's bad for your heart. I didn't know this. Only in America would a governor warn you that actual exercise is dangerous for your heart.
That can lead to a heart attack. You don't want that.
Don't tell me what I want and what I don't want. You are not the boss of me. Now the government is telling me how to shovel snow. I guess shoveling snow causes heart attacks. I think there was a pre-existing condition before you start shoveling snow. But if you want to have a heart attack, shovel snow. I guess that's the message. I don't know. Anyway, you should probably turn this off now because I'm going to go over the blizzard, which is going on. The entire state of New York has issued a full travel ban. It started Sunday evening, and it's pretty much lasting throughout all of today. It is now dangerous for everyone to even think of stepping outside, not just Hispanics, everybody. Bridges and tunnels are being closed to all traffic unless it's an emergency or you have tickets to see Hamilton. I'm not making this up. Premium tickets to see Hamilton, they are charging $1,525.50 for one seat for Hamilton. I can buy a massage chair for less than that. Then again, it wouldn't put me to sleep the way Hamilton did. $1,525.50 for a premium seat for Hamilton. Now, what I want to know is how they came up with the 50 cents. How did that happen? Like they're going, okay, I like the way $1,525 sounds, but let's tack on 50 cents at the end just so there's something the $1,525 can be compared to. You won't know how big that is unless you have something really tiny like 50 cents standing next to it. $1,525.50 people are willing to shell out to see Hamilton. What better way to celebrate the birth of America than a musical that only 1% of the country can afford? I know, you loved Hamilton, right? It's great. But $1,525.50 for one seat, nothing's that great. Nothing is that great. This was the Statue of Liberty at sundown last night, just the way Donald Trump loves her, impossible to see. Yet you'll notice that the statue's light still flickered, and not to get all teary-eyed, but that lady with the flickering light, she still stirs my heart because that is the same light my grandparents saw on the boat when they arrived in New York Harbor back from their winter cruise to Havana in the early 50s. They loved that vacation. And then Batista fell. Let's see, that is, what is that? That's a few towns over from where I grew up. You're looking at Fort Lee, New Jersey, getting ready for the big blizzard yesterday. They were getting ready. This is before it really came down. Fort Lee, New Jersey, schools are canceled today. It's not the blizzard, it's because a black kid enrolled into the Fort Lee public school system, so they've canceled school. Fort Lee, New Jersey, not too keen on the whole integration thing in Fort Lee, New Jersey. When I was growing up, Fort Lee was where the mafia's 5 families raised their children. Fort Lee is right over the George Washington Bridge, so a lot of mafia in Fort Lee, New Jersey. It was known for its amazing high school basketball team because anytime they lost, the coach ended up in a wood chipper. They didn't, the mafia, they would bet on their kids' games, and if it didn't go well, the coach ended up in a wood chipper. Anyway, I know somebody, anyway, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Back to Winter Storm Hernando. Isn't that an ABBA song? Oh, no, that's Fernando. Let's see. So that is Winter Storm Hernando. This is an amazing picture of Hernando. Oh, no, that is not Winter Storm Hernando. That, I believe, is Jim Gaffigan's butt. I believe that. Let me pull out some more. What is that? Yes, that is actually a satellite image of Jim Gaffigan's pasty-ass butt. No, it's Hernando, the winter storm, and you see the white clouds, and that jagged dark hole in the center is what meteorologists call the eye of the storm, but because the storm is named Hernando, it's the eye of the storm. It's the eye of the storm. Why would you be still here? Why is anybody watching? I told you to turn this shit off. I covered the news earlier. This I'm doing for myself because I'm very depressed. So this storm, it's some serious stuff, and it is your classic nor'easter. Now, you might be wondering, why do they call it a nor'easter? Well, you can see it's developing on the east and moving north, hence nor'easter. If you're wondering which part of the compass point you find north is between neither and or on your compass. And here you can track Hernando moving up the East Coast. And again, with a name like Hernando, you'd think once Hernando passed over Washington, D.C., it would have been detained by ICE, at least for questioning. But alas, no such luck, and it's just moving east and north. 70 million Americans are under a severe weather watch right now, so I doubt anyone is listening to this show. One disaster is enough. Back here in New York City, we're getting massive amounts of snow. Some parts in the tri-state area can expect as much as 20 inches. Now, 20 inches, that's a lot, especially in New York City. 20 inches in New York City, that is a medium-sized 2-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side. So 20 inches, that's about $7,000 a month here in New York City. What do we have here? Let me go big here. This is not AI. These are actual pictures. This is a picture of a New Yorker, I believe, clearing the snow around one of those mounds built by Manhattan's gopher people who live below the city. Some of you are familiar with the gopher people. They're part human, part gopher, and that's one of the entrances to their Gopher People Community Rec Center. Ethan Hirschenfeld and I swim there. Obviously, we're not Gopher people, but it's open to anyone. It has to be. We just crawl through that little opening in the Gopher People mound, and we go. We use the pool at the Gopher People Rec Room. It's open to anybody. I mean, if you don't mind sharing a locker room with the Gopher People. I've never had a problem with the Gopher People who live below the city. Let's see, what else is here? These are actual pictures. Who's that? Oh, that's my idiot cousin Larry in Brooklyn being told by the Korean grocer, no, I don't want to pay you $200 to shovel snow that customers track in from the outside. That's Larry's. When there's a blizzard, he offers his services to shovel snow that customers track in from the outside. That's my cousin Larry, and he's an idiot. And what else do we have here? That is Times Square, late Sunday night, as Hernando began to whip up. And those are tourists from Iowa paying $500 to get hit in the face with a piss-colored snowball thrown by someone dressed as a minion. That's true. What else do we have here? Just going through my notes here. What is this? Oh, this is good. This is from the CBS News chief meteorologist. Can you see that? For some reason, he felt the need to post a slide detailing all the cities on the Northeast seaboard where the age of consent is above 18. See that? Seems like an odd time to want to remind viewers of that. No, I'm sorry. That's best chance for 18. Oh, that would be 18 inches. I misread that. Those are the cities expecting 18 inches of snow. Okay. I don't know why anybody would still be listening to this. Okay, this is really fascinating. This is really interesting. And I don't want to get too bogged down in meteorological stuff here, but, you know, I am like an amateur meteorologist, and this is kind of interesting. This map shows us, can you see this? There it is. This map shows us what it looks like when all of New Jersey and parts of New York and Pennsylvania are painted red. Isn't that interesting? That is, I love science. What else do we have here? This is important. Let me go big here. This is very interesting. This is the average life expectancy of cities up and down the eastern seaboard since Bobby Kennedy Jr. was put in charge of our healthcare system. Richmond, Virginia, 30 to 40. New York, 50 to 60. We're doing better up. Oh, okay. I didn't read that properly. Those are wind gusts. Wow. You see that? New York, 50 to 60 miles an hour. Boston, 40 to 50. Nantucket, 70 to 80 miles per hour in Nantucket. I've always wanted to date a woman from Nantucket. I hear good things about women from Nantucket. I never dated a woman from Nantucket, but I once knew a woman from Nantucket whose breasts were so large, I had to lend her money for reduction surgery. And what do we have here? These are shoppers in Brooklyn Heights, hours before the storm, stocking up on tedium, dissatisfaction, world weariness, and ennui. Yeah, the ennui goes very quickly before a storm. Like ennui and toilet paper, if you don't stock up on that. And what do we have here? Oh, this is This is the only flight leaving Kennedy Airport this morning. Can you see that? It was piloted by Captain Lawrence, who gives a shit. I don't know if you've ever flown with Captain Lawrence, who gives a shit, but he'll take off in any kind of weather. That's Captain Lawrence, who gives a shit. It's an interesting name. I grew up with the who gives a shits. All right. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak and try to forget the last 20 minutes of this. Hey, it's depressing. It's a blizzard, and I didn't even think I was going to be able to do a show today. So who gives a shit? The who gives a shits. They're great company. You can just serve them anything, and they don't complain. Who gives a shits? That would be Captain Lawrence, who gives a shit, from the flight deck. I'm not going to talk about the death of El Mencho. El Mencho, he was the leader of the Jalisco New Generation drug cartel, and he died tragically. Did you ever listen to the Jalisco New Generation drug cartel? Tearing Up My Heart, remember that? They recorded the Jalisco New Generation drug cartel. I believe they recorded Tearing Up My Heart. Or maybe that was In Sync? Was it In Sync? I don't think actually I'm familiar with the Jalisco New Generation drug cartel, their music. You know, he was a bad guy. He was a drug dealer. And he called himself El Mencho. Sounds like his name should be El Not a Mencho. Where I grew up, drug dealers are not menches. Maybe he took the nickname El Mencho ironically, but he's not a mensch. More like El Schmucko or El Schmendreco, but not El Mencho. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's Captain Lawrence, who gives a shit. I'm done. Is anybody still here, and why? That's the show. I rest my case, Your Honor. Well, if you're not watching right now, hit the like button. If you only saw the first half hour of the show and not this crap, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel and my newsletter. Leave a comment. I have a feeling I know what the comments are going to be. If you have any I do issue corrections. So if I made any mistakes, like deciding to do the show in a blizzard, leave a comment. Thank you to Bob and Mila, if they're in the chat room. Thank you to anybody who's still watching, and my apologies. All right. Stay safe. I have a feeling later today the news won't be good when we find out. Luckily, Kristi Noem's in charge of FEMA, so we're safe. All right, bye. Sorry.